At Calgary to Space, we just see it happening that women who join the team become more active, more willing to speak up.
One of the things also that Calgary to Space really takes an initiative on is trying to empower people to have them believe that they can do something, because this industry is so intimidating in the beginning.
Welcome to a new episode of the PAM Talks. The PAM Talks is a student-led podcast showcasing the voices of researchers who are part of traditionally underrepresented groups in physics and astronomy. My name's E, and I'm a PhD student in mathematics studying geometric spaces with applications in scientific model creation. Today, I'm interviewing Aarti Chandiramani and Kaleigh from Calgary to Space, a student group at the University of Calgary who are engineering Calgary's first student-developed satellite. They will be launching their first CubeSat this fall with real scientific payloads developed by researchers at the University of Calgary. Calgary to Space empowers diverse students to become part of the Canadian aerospace industry, and Aarti and Kaleigh are at the forefront of this movement. I'm really excited to be able to share their work with the PAM Talks listeners today. Hi everyone, my name's E or Ea. My pronouns are they, them. I just finished my undergrad degree in math and physics, and today I have the great opportunity of interviewing two members of the Calgary to Space team. I'd like to get started with the first team member, Aarti, who is the orbit lead. Would you like to introduce yourself and maybe a little information about your role in Calgary to Space?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Aarti, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm continuing my third year in geomatics engineering with a minor in aerospace at the University of Calgary. And my role in CTS, or Calgary to Space, is the orbit lead and the ADCS lead.
With that, we'll go over to our second team member that we have today. We actually have the current president of Calgary to Space with us. Feel free to introduce yourself as well as a bit of your history with Calgary to Space and your current role.
Hi, I'm Kaleigh. I'm the president of Calgary to Space, a role that I started last September, about a year ago. For that, I was the director of systems on the team for about 2 years, meaning that I oversaw all of the different technical sub-teams, made sure that the system was being developed to the right requirements. And today I kind of oversee the public messaging, fundraising, administration, making sure that everyone on the team is happy and that Calgary to Space is a well-oiled machine. So I just finished up my degree in electrical engineering with a minor in computer engineering in May, and I'm going to be continuing with a master's of engineering in biomedical. So branching out a little bit from what I was doing before.
It's really cool to see the breadth of the role that you take in Calgary to Space and all the different subtasks that you complete as part of the team there. So the next thing I'd like to go through, so this is open to both of you. Feel free to answer in whichever order you prefer. But as a kind of general question, who is Calgary to Space and who is the team more broadly? So we have the orbit lead and president here, but what other kind of members do you have in your team? What other roles are filled out in that broader project?
So we're a team of students, first and foremost. We have undergrads, master's students, and even the occasional PhD student has joined us. And we're just a group of really passionate people who are determined to do something that has never been done before by students. The different roles that we have, aside from the ADCS and orbit team, there's a really heavy electrical component to it. So we need people who are able to work on solar panels, develop computers, write software. We also have a structural team that is really heavy in mechanical engineering, so machining, doing CAD modeling, thermal simulations, vibration testing. There's honestly just so many different things that go into it. There's the whole radio communications side, people building the ground station, people learning how to use radio frequencies. And yeah, I mean, I could probably talk for a while about all of the different things that we do, but maybe we can get into that a bit later.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything you want to add on, Aarti?
I would just say that one of the things also that Calgary to Space really takes an initiative on is trying to empower people to have them believe that they can do something, because this industry is so intimidating to touch on in the beginning. And one thing we really like to do is to get, yes, university students, but also high school students engaged. We ran some scholarships for high school students in the past for creating our mission patch and naming our actual first satellite, which is FrontierSat. And so our real mission as a group or organization is to just get as many people passionate about the space industry as possible and show them that there is a way for them to get active into that community.
That's awesome. I really love that kind of not like technical, but like kind of personal focused goal that you have as a group with building that community, getting people involved, getting people excited, and also feeling that even if they don't have necessarily all the background that one might expect is needed for these types of projects, that they can still contribute in a meaningful way. That's really awesome to hear. How do you think about CalgaryToSpace's role in that type of vision, in the sense of like, do you think the team serves as a nice role model for incoming high school students that you have like kind of interacting with the club and things like that?
Yeah, so part of Calgary to Space's initiatives and written in our charter is actually that we strive to promote minorities in STEM and in leadership. And in particular, we aim to promote women. At Calgary to Space, I think having women prominent and active on the team, we just see it happening that women who join the team become more active, more willing to speak up. And as a result, we see what they're capable of, and they're promoted very quickly to positions of higher responsibility.
That's amazing to hear. It sounds like your group as a whole have found very kind of organic way, very natural way of building kind of welcoming space that like encourages diversity, but at the same time, not highlighting it as, oh, this is so extraordinary, this never happens. It's like, no, this should be the norm. This should be natural, and you give a space so that that can be the case, so that can organically develop while providing people coming in with the opportunity to become involved, to participate, no matter their background. So what does Calgary to Space do? Like, what is the thing that you mainly work on at Calgary to Space?
Yeah, so it's a good thing to clarify because we've had some confusion about this. So we don't build rockets, and we haven't built the actual research payloads that are flying on the satellite. Those were developed by people more experienced and with more resources than us, PhDs who are building things in their real labs with government grant money. And the part that Calgary to Space is doing is the design of the platform for those research payloads. So in this case, that's a small satellite, basically. And because of the fact that we're a student team, it's essentially limited to CubeSats, which are a type of nanosatellite. A single unit CubeSat is about the size of a Rubik's Cube, and ours is made up of 3 cubes, so more like the size of a loaf of bread. What we do on the daily is designing the frame for that loaf of bread shaped satellite, designing all of the internal components, purchasing any kind of off the shelf hardware, selecting that to make sure that it's what we need, and assembling it, putting it all together, and figuring out who's going to launch it, finding the launch provider, and finding all of the money necessary to pay for this.
I didn't know the differences between the different satellites and like the size and things. So it's really interesting to hear about how you can have these really small but powerful satellites at work. Before moving on, I just want to also extend the question to Aarti, if you had anything you want to add as like an orbit lead for the team.
Yeah, I definitely add on that as time goes on, the project gets more real every day. Like these things, like these milestones that we are hitting and these like achievements that we are making, like each one takes us a step closer to actually being able to launch. And it's so exciting, and morale has probably never been higher just because everyone has been working on this for so long and everyone's so excited in the direction we're going. Because now we're at a point where, yes, we're a team from the University of Calgary, but we represent so much more than that. We got accepted into a test campaign with the ESA, and we'll be representing Canada, taking our satellite to Europe and testing in their amazing facilities before launch. We're working with so many like different people to help us get this launch and this satellite ready, and it's just nice to be able to see all of these things kind of lining up and setting into place after all of like our work has gone into it.
It's really stunning to hear how this project is expanded so much. That's a super cool thing to see. I want to go back a little bit because we now like have a better sense of like, the community in Calgary to Space. You talked a little bit previously about why you feel Calgary to Space is important to the broader Calgary and U of C community, as well as a little bit past that, but I kind of want to get a bit deeper into that because, for example, Kaleigh, you mentioned that this satellite isn't just kind of a test run thing. You actually are planning on running experiments on the satellite. I was wondering if you two could go a bit more in detail on like what those experiments are, why people in Calgary to Space care about them, why people that aren't scientists might care about them. Maybe already as orbit lead, if you have any insight into the kind of the orbit perspective on the satellite that you're planning on launching.
So our satellite will be in what's designated as low Earth orbit, around 500 kilometers of an altitude. And this is really great real estate to be for a CubeSat satellite because it's high enough up in the ionosphere that we can get data from the ionosphere, but also low enough that we can deorbit in a set amount of time because we don't want to be contributing to space junk. Something that's really great about CubeSats is they do deorbit quite quickly. So we're able to, in the orbit team, make sure that, yes, we have an orbit we want to be at, but we don't want to be there for 50 years. We want to make sure that we are deorbiting in a nice amount of time so that space is freed up for future science projects.
That's really cool. So I want to build off that, going to you, Kaleigh. I want to kind of hear your input on the science missions you mentioned previously, but also how the specific of CubeSats and your design help with the projects that you're planning on running on your satellite once it's launched.
Yeah, for sure. CubeSats make space missions more affordable and accessible. And, you know, without talking specifically about the science missions, I think this is a reason that people should care, that this basically represents space becoming accessible to everybody. Like we're at the point where high school teams are building these. I don't know if any Canadian high school teams are, but the fact that a student team is able to do this at all just represents really big changes in the space industry, which is a pretty exciting thing. And you never know when your own kid might be doing it in grade 10. To talk a little bit about the science missions and why those are so exciting. So the first instrument, the main payload on there is called a plasma imager. And this is a miniaturized version of the device that's being adapted specifically to fly on our CubeSat. So Aarti is actually working with Dr. Jonathan Burchell, who is the developer of this instrument. The other experiment that's on there is developed by somebody named Nick Elderfield, and he's doing research into composite material science. So we've got a collapsible boom that kind of rolls up onto a spool, and it's made of this flexible carbon composite material lattice that allows it to roll up like that. But when it unrolls, it's pretty stiff and extremely lightweight. So this will be the first time that material and this design is tested in space. And it will basically just be a demonstration to see how it flexes as the satellite is barreling around at 27,000 kilometers per hour, and whether it could actually be used to deploy an actual thing on a satellite, like solar panels or something like that. But for now, that's just a tech demonstration. The plasma imager, though, will be collecting useful science data that's going to be downlinked to us and analyzed on the ground by Dr. Burchell and his team.
It's so cool to hear that with your first launch, you're already going to have two very different but also very important projects going on with your satellite. It's really amazing to see the breadth of the work y'all do. So now that we've talked about the science projects that are going to be on the first flight are, I want to get a bit more into maybe why someone that doesn't know much about space instruments and doesn't know much about space experiments, why they should care about this type of a flight, as well as what future possibilities y'all have in mind in terms of applications that y'all can do with other satellites that you might launch in the future.
Yeah, just the fact that we're doing this as a student team is what people should be paying attention to. Like it represents just advancement that's happening in these fields. And also, if you live in Calgary, I hope that there will be some Calgarian pride in celebrating the launch of our first ever student developed satellite, and also it will be Calgary's first CubeSat. CubeSats are, done by student teams, but they're also useful for commercial purposes. So what we're doing really is developing a group of people that is poised to fill that niche and potentially build satellites for other applications that really are important to Canada. There is a company called GHGSat, for example, that uses constellations of CubeSats to look for greenhouse gas leakages, like methane leaks. That's very relevant to Alberta. Wildfire monitoring, that's extremely relevant to Alberta lately. So I hope that what will really get people excited is just seeing that we're training individuals who are going to make a really positive impact on Canada through working in the space industry.
Awesome. It's really amazing to hear y'all are able to do as a mostly undergrad and student group, and just like how much impact your project is already having and will have in the near future. It's really amazing. And also, as someone that doesn't have really a background in space technology and space flight, it's really interesting to hear from me how these applications to things like climate science, wildfire detection, because that's definitely not the first thing I would think of. Like, I might think of, oh, there's things like measuring properties about auroras and other types of things like solar flares and other space weather. But it's really cool that you can also obtain such important information about the environment on Earth as well. I did want to, before we moved on from that, just if there are any things that really stick out to you as a team member, Aarti, that really are interesting to you or that inspire you about the group's mission and what goals there are for applications with the CubeSat as well as future projects.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about, I think, with our mission also being kind of to give students this real life example of what a career could look like in the space industry, because it's something that you're not taught in class. There are things that, like having such a long-term group project and the implications of that. We have students that graduate. How is that information being passed down, and how is the club evolving as a whole is really cool to think about too, because we do have long-term goals. FrontierSat will be our first mission, but it definitely won't be our last. So we're hoping to just set up this place where people who are really encouraged can get that experience and be able to work on these real life applications in their future careers. Kind of maybe think of us as like a little Kickstarter, something to like train these highly skilled individuals and get them out into the workforce with this experience that will help them make a difference.
Amazing that you all are such a forward-thinking group, both respect to when you were talking about space junk previously, as well as with respect to future projects and applications of this work, and just generally preparing groups of students to be able to pursue careers in these various important industries. I really love hearing how passionate you are about this and how just it comes through and when you talk about how much you really care about your team and the work that you put in with that. So it's really lovely to hear. Well, that was my last big question. It's been amazing talking to you, Aarti and Kaleigh. Before we sign off, I just wanted to check, since we've been talking about this satellite project for a bit now, but we haven't mentioned, when is this planning on your first launch? When do you, like, rough timeline for when you think your first launch will be?
Yeah, so FrontierSat is launching in fall of 2025, so just a little bit later this year. We're launching in partnership with a company called ExoLaunch, who is our integration and mission management partner.
That's amazing to hear that so close, and I'm really excited to see it finally happens. Lovely talking to you both. Thank you so much for joining me on the PAM Talks today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was really great.
The PAM Talks gratefully acknowledges the support of the University of Calgary's Graduate Students Association Quality Money Grant Program. We also want to thank all of our University of Calgary Giving Day donors for their generous support. Your gift helps amplify underrepresented voices in physics and astronomy.